What a chapter. A review of Mark 13. So much. I'll try and keep it short. Yeah, right. All right. So if you remember from the very beginning, Jesus ends up talking to four. It's a private discussion between, who is it, Andrew, James, John, and Peter. Excuse me. Basically, the two questions, Matthew chapter 24, Luke 21 are parallel passages. Matthew actually asks a third question. But basically the timing, the two questions are the timing. Like, when are these things going to happen? See, they saw this beautiful, the big temple, and they said, wow, isn't this magnificent? Jesus said, it's all coming down. It's going to be destroyed. So he predicts the destruction of Jerusalem, which is what happened in 70 AD. This is about 30 AD. This is 40 years later. Jesus absolutely nailed it. Okay, the sign of your coming, and also when is the end of the age, is what Matthew adds. When are these things going to be fulfilled? The crumbling of the temple and destruction of Jerusalem and all. So here's a brief outline. And then I'm going to review this again, going over a little bit more detail in a second. But here's verses 5 through 23. It's events leading to Jerusalem destruction. And then 24 through 27 is the return of the Son of Man and the end of the age. And then this is the third part, is where verses 28 and 31, he mentions a parable of fig tree. He mentions the second parable a little bit later. But fig tree first, the destruction of Jerusalem, signs before and within the disciples' generation. This is a key verse right there. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then the fourth thing is verses 30 through 37, the parable of the owner's return. That's a second parable. And the unknown time of the Son of Man's return, and especially emphasize the need of watchfulness. I'll kind of do a brief thing here. He mentions things like false Christ, wars, earthquakes, and famines. It's kind of like the birth pains, and then persecution and the beating and all that. Then he goes into it a little bit further. He talks about the gospel being preached to the nations. And here we go. Here's a little bit more of the fuller view of the chapter 13 of Mark. He said, don't let anyone deceive you. And that's very important. Don't let people dupe you, trick you. Don't be deluded. Don't be tricked. Well, how do you keep from being deceived by false teaching, false Christ, false this, false that, fake stuff? Because you got to get close to God in prayer. You got to seek the Lord. You got to get close to Jesus, his son. And that is through prayer and also knowing his word. That's why it's important to know the Bible. And you're knowing the Bible as you're studying it with me. It's good stuff. Let no man, what? Deceive you. Says they're going to come to say, I am Christ. People who come say, I'm the Messiah, I'm the one. No. We should be saying, he's the one, he's the Messiah, pointing upwards and not towards yourself. Don't seek for attention. Jesus should be the only one that really gets attention. He's the only hero of all of us. He's a big shot guy. He's the dude. All right, so he mentions wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes going to happen, famines going to happen, troubles are going to happen. He calls it the beginning of sorrows, birth pangs. And then he talks about persecution. They're going to deliver you up in the synagogues. The very churches themselves, the Jewish places of worship, are going to turn against you. And that's what happened in the lives of these wonderful Jewish followers, disciples of Jesus Christ. He warned it, it happened. So they turned against him in the synagogues as well as governors and rulers and kings. So not just the religious leaders, but also the leaders of Rome and all. And also the family, will turn against you, brother against brother, brother-in-law, son-in-law, father-in-law, mothers, daughters, they're going to turn against you. So it's more important to make Jesus first, even before your family. Okay, a lot to be said about that. Then he mentioned this very famous phrase. It's mentioned in the book of Daniel, and he even mentions that it was from the book of Daniel. The abomination of desolation. Desolation means desolate, like emptiness, waste. And that's what happened to the beautiful temple. It was wasted. Billions of dollars worth of stuff just smashed. And he warned it was going to happen. And it was an abomination. Disgust is what abomination means. So it's a time where this is going to be desolated. The beautiful temple in Jerusalem is going to be attacked and taken over by the Gentiles and all. He said, flee, like get out of Judea. It's going to happen in Jerusalem, you know, so get out of Judea and go flee to the mountains, get away from there. And they did. The Christians listened to that and they escaped. And then if you're on the housetop, don't go into your house, you know, right in the middle of the house. Go down the ladder and leave. If you see they're starting to come and surround Jerusalem. If you're in the field, don't return back to your house and get your stuff. Just leave from there, go to the mountains. Pray that it doesn't happen when you're pregnant. You know, poor mothers who have babies who have to go through all this persecution coming up here. And pray that doesn't happen in the winter, you know. Then there's going to be, again, he mentions false Christ. There's going to be a lot of people. That's what happened in the first century. It's a lot of people claiming to be the one to follow and all. It happened for 2-3 centuries after. It's still happening today even. You know, some of this right here that happened 2,000 years ago is still happening today, you know, so it's a warning for not just them, but us. And they're even able to do, the false prophets and all, and teachers are going to even be able to do false signs and wonders. So you got to watch it. The devil has some power too, but not like God. All right, with the way he mentions what I'll call the heavenly signs, you know, the sun turning dark and the moon, but are those literally going to turn dark and blood red and all that? No, I don't think so. There's passages in the Old Testament, I talked about this, prophecies of certain countries and nations coming down, and he mentioned the same sort of heavenly signs. It's just poetic. It's just it's just like a symbolic way of things that are high and lifted, and these great nations are coming down. God's going to pull them down. He's going to destroy it. And so that's what I think the heavenly signs are saying. The Son of Man is going to come. There's angels that's going to gather. Then he mentions a fig tree parable that, you know, when you see the fig trees starting to leaves and all that starting to happen, then it's going to happen. In other words, the parable of the fig tree is showing how it is. You'll see the signs of the fig tree coming alive. That's what is going to happen around you. The signs of the times are going to really happen. And that's why I mentioned the parable of fig tree. And they also said this key verse, I'm going to quote it in a second, this generation right here. He said, this generation shall not pass away until all these things happen. So that's why I believe this chapter in Matthew 13, as far as I can tell right now, most of it already happened. It was for them. It wasn't for us. Though there are parallels, like I mentioned, false teaching, false Christ, you know, and things happening in the world. There's earthquakes, famines, and all that. Of course, that's been happening for centuries. But the point is, this generation shall not pass away until all these things shall happen. So I think it really is focused, that chapter is primarily and first of all for them. All right, then he said, no one knows the day or hour. They didn't know the day or hour when Jesus was going to come back and destroy the temple. He didn't destroy the temple. He used the armies, though, for it. He uses certain individuals to do his work. And so he said, that's the Son of Man coming in power and judgment and all that that's going to happen. I also think this could be possibly a picture of the future when Jesus Christ literally comes back from heaven. He's going to come in his power and glory and all. So no one knows that day or hour even today. And that, what did he exhort them to do? Watch. Remember that? Watch. He told them to watch. He tells you to watch. Watch your life. Watch out for the second coming of Jesus. Be ready for it and pray. I put in parentheses because some of the translations don't have that. But prayer is very important. And then he mentions a parable, the owner leaving. The person who owns a house leaves on a journey. That's Jesus leaving the earth. The Son of Man is leaving. And that you need to be like the porter who's standing at the door watching for his return. You need to be ready. You shouldn't be in your spiritual bed, napping, sleeping. Watch out. Don't let him come back catching you sleeping. In other words, you need to be alert. You need to be awake. You need to be like, yeah, okay, I'm serving you, God. I'm going to be busy about your business. I'm going to think about the things of God, not the things of the world and all. Get it? Okay, so parable of the owner leaving he mentions, and then he also especially mentions over and over and over, at least 4 times, watch. Be on guard. Be on guard. Be alert. Wake up. Wake up. Okay. All right. That was pretty good. That's a lot packed in there. Hope you listened. Hope you enjoyed it. I enjoy talking. I talk kind of fast. Hopefully you listen a lot fast. Trying to get it out. God bless you. Love you. Bye.